Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Yesterday, you may have seen the mono green Frieza gameplay versus blue green Piccolo. Today, we're going over the mono green Frieza deck profile. I'm actually really excited about this deck. It's super fun, and that's not something I don't think I'd usually say because this deck is more simple to play. It does a lot of the same things over and over again, but what it does is really powerful. I don't know, maybe I'll just be able to explain it once we get into the deck profile. So guys, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. If you want to help support the channel, there are many free ways to do so during these trying times. You can always like the video, maybe share the video, maybe watch an ad, and if you want to buy or pre-order any of the cards you see in today's video, you can always use my link in the description to TCG Player. That being said, let's get right on into this deck profile. So we'll start off with the leader. So on the Unawakened side, he's Little Frieza, permanent. You can't include sand cards in your deck. That's not too bad. Like, it's kind of unfortunate you can't play Paragus Super Combo, you can't play Sand Instinct Sun Goku if you wanted to make this like a hyper competitive multicolor build, but it's not too bad because a lot of the good hand control cards are not necessarily tied to sands. There are good ones tied to sands, like the new Vegeta Super Combo in set 10, but it's pretty much okay. Auto, choose one Frieza army card in your battle area and place it in the owner's drop area. When this card attacks a leader card, your opponent chooses one card in their hand and discards it. Then add up to one card from your life to your hand. Now, one thing I want to mention here is that Bandai put out an official ruling update that says when your opponent would place a card in the drop area from their hand, it is now considered discarding it all over the place. They did like a Q&A type of thing on their Facebook page where they showed an old effect of some card that said place in the drop area, and they said this would count as discarding. So I just want to keep that in mind in case you're playing any older cards in this deck. Awaken, when he likes 4 or less, draw one card, switch it to one of your energy to active mode, and flip this card over. Last Resort Frieza, when this card attacks, draw one, activate main once per turn, choose one Frieza army card in your battle area and place it in the owner's drop area, choose one card in your opponent's hand, discard it, then choose up to one of your green Unison cards and it gains critical for the turn. The backside of this leader is such an insane powerhouse. Like, the front side is good too, so making your opponent discard cards when you attack them, it's a little counterintuitive, but it still gets the job done. The fact that you get to take life when you do this is the important part because you want to get awakened as quickly as physically possible because your backside is just straight value. Attack, draw, and then sacrifice your Frieza armies to start picking random cards out of your opponent's hand and then giving your Unison crit. It's just so good. Now we'll explain some of the main deck. So in this deck, because your leader needs to sacrifice Frieza armies to do its thing, you got to play a lot of Frieza army 1-drops. So starting off, we have some older ones. Infernal Emperor Frieza, this is really good for getting you awakened. Again, you do want to get awakened very fast. If you're playing against Piccolo, or if you're playing against something that's not attacking you, maybe like Hachiak, you really want to get awakened as fast as possible. Chi-Lai Frieza Force Soldier, another 1-dropper playing. It's just a 1-drop Frieza army that draws one. It does have the added effect of bringing out Speedy Partner Limo, which when you play it, if there is a Chi-Lai in your battle area, your opponent chooses a card in their hand and discards it. So something like this, for example, where it says choose one card from the hand and place it in the drop area, this would count as discarding, so that's pretty important to know. But anyways, Chi-Lai is really good because it brings out Limo from the deck. It is a cantrip that your leader can sacrifice, and when you're doing that, you want to sacrifice 1-drops that are cantrips. You want to sacrifice 1-drops that have somehow gotten you value, because if you just play a 1-drop, for example, that doesn't do anything, you play it and it does absolutely nothing, then sacrificing it, you're just taking a -1, and then your opponent's taking a -1 from your effect, but then they'll get a life off of that. You'll get a life off of it too, so you guys will even out an advantage. You want your opponent to go negative in this exchange, so the fact that your Chi-Lai Frieza Soldier or any of your other 1-drops are cantrips that they replace themselves, that means you're going to go positive. And a lot of times in this deck, you're not making like super flashy plays. There aren't like big boss monsters. That's why the activate main on a card like Chi-Lai Frieza Force Soldier is relatively good in this deck. It does come up quite a bit. And we're only playing 3 Limo because you don't really want to draw them. You want to keep them in your deck as much as you can. You might get one in your life, you might draw one, but hopefully the other ones stay in your deck. Now for the rest of the 1-drops, we got Zarbon Frieza Right Hand Man and Dodoria Frieza Devoted Servant. These are new cards coming out of the structure deck. We'll give them a quick read. So Zarbon, when this card's played, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Add 1 green Unison with a specified cost of 2, or 1 green Frieza army card with energy cost of 4 or less among them to your hand. Kind of annoying that it only adds a 4 or less, and there's an important Frieza 5-drop that we'll talk about in a bit, but still really good. Again, it replaces itself, so this is the prime thing you want to look for turn 1, especially if you're missing your Unisons, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Really nice thing, activate battle if the leader card is a green Frieza card. If you have a green Unison in play and you send this card from your drop area to your warp, choose one of your leader cards or Unison cards and it gets plus 10,000 power for the battle. So some free added benefit there when you do get this thing removed from the board, either by your effect or your opponent's effect. Now the Dodoria is actually so insane. I see some lists not maxing this out, but it's just so good because it's good for your deck, and it's also good against your opponent's hand control. So let's give it a quick read. Auto, if your leader card is a green Frieza card and you have a green Unison card in play, if this card is placed in your drop area from your hand by a skill, you may play this card from your drop area. Activate main, pay a green. If your leader card is a green Frieza card, you have this green Unison in play, add this card from your drop area to your hand. So if it gets discarded, you play it. If it's in your drop area, you pay 1, you add it back to your hand. There's a loop we'll talk about in just a minute where this is really important. Hasty Dispatch Dispo, another good card. It's not a Frieza army, so we can't use it for our leader effect. That's why we're only playing 2 copies, but it will get into your drop area naturally, meaning you don't have to like needlessly combo it. You have natural ways to get it into the drop area. So when your opponent does clear your board, or if you run out of Frieza army cards, it's a good way to get another Frieza army card back onto the board so that your leader can then sacrifice it, make your opponent discard, things of that nature. So next up, we have our Unison cards. Frieza Xeno, Darkness Overflowing, and Super Saiyan Bardock Paternal Unison. You might think the ratios here are weird, but Frieza Xeno is actually so much better in this deck than Super Saiyan Bardock Paternal Unison is. Paternal Unison might be the best green Unison card there is in the game at this point in set 10, but in this deck in particular, you don't really want to sacrifice your 1-drops for him. You want to use your 1-drops for your leader effect. So Bardock is better as like a win condition. The +1 effect will come up sometimes, but the -3 effect actually is much better late game, because this is like the closest thing in the deck we have to a boss monster. Your opponent can't really counterplay this. They can't like Crusher Ball it, rest mode it, anything like that. So you can pay 4 for it. You can pay 5 if you're afraid of your opponent having something that removes markers mid-battle like blue does, and then you can give it triple attack. Your leader can give it crit, so that's a 20k triple attack crit going for game. That's pretty strong. But the main engine of the deck is Frieza Xeno Darkness Overflowing. He can save himself if he would lose a marker by critting yourself a life. The activate main +1 is the main effect. Choose 1 card in your hand and discard it, draw 1. So that right there triggers our Dodoria, which means Dodoria comes onto the board for free. That's straight value. You'll do that all the time. You'll use Frieza, ditch Dodoria, Dodoria gets played, your leader attacks, kill off Dodoria, and then add Dodoria back to your hand for 1 energy. It's a 1 energy loop once you have the Frieza Xeno established, and it's just straight up value town. And that's what I'm talking about when I meant in the beginning. This deck does the same thing over and over again. It's highly efficient, highly consistent. So I'm a really big fan of this. If you're a newer player and want to start doing well at events, or doing well online for right now, this is a really good deck to play. The activate main -1, remove a 4-drop, and then remove a Unison marker. Not bad. Doesn't come up all the time, but it's definitely not bad. Frieza, charismatic villain, the best counterplay this deck can play pretty much because it's free. Counterplay, you can't activate counterplay skills for the rest of the turn, and then you can play this card from your hand. If you have a green Unison card in play with 2 or more markers, you can activate this card without paying its energy cost. Auto, when this card's played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 7 or less and KO it. So this pretty much hits everything outside of secret rares and outside of barrier. So for that reason, this card is absolutely insane. Again, it's fodder for your leader. It's a free Frieza army you can play to the board and then use for your leader effect to start picking at your opponent's hand. Next up, some general hand control cards. I know you guys see Rebrand, might make some of you guys sad. It is one of the best green hand control cards in the game that isn't a Saiyan, that you can actually play in this deck. If you guys aren't trying to be super competitive, there are many other cards you could play instead of this card, but it is a really strong card in this deck because, again, with the Frieza Xeno Unison, you pitch this, you draw 1, so this got into your drop area naturally instead of forcing it with a combo, and then you use the effect pay 2, make your opponent lose 2 cards. It's really strong. Earth Destroying Kamehameha, again, one of the best cards in the deck. If you wanted to replace Rebrand with a more budget option, you could play Roshi's Kamehameha Origins, because that would allow you to recycle your Earth Destroying Kamehameha. But I'm just foregoing that, playing for Rebrand, because it is one of the most busted cards in this deck you can possibly play. We are playing 1 Furthering Instruction Champa. As I mentioned before, there are no real boss monsters in the deck. There are no real win conditions per se. Your win condition is get your opponent's hand to 0, and they're forced to take damage after that. Champa is good for the double strike crits because we do have a lot of crit in the deck thanks to the leader getting the Unison's crit. And also, if their opponents add 2 life, 0 cards in hand, or low cards in hand, you pretty much just kill them right then and there. Now, the final few cards in the deck, we are playing 6 negates. We're playing the 3 Wrathful Charge. So this could be a number of things. This could be Wrathful Charge, this could be Shocking Death Ball, or this could be Pretty Black Hole. Pretty Black Hole is pretty cool, because when I talked about that Frieza before, when you play him onto the board, the counterplay 5-drop, he's pretty useless on the board, but Pretty Black Hole lets you sacrifice him, and then kill up to 5 costs on your opponent's board and draw a card. That is really, really good. But Wrathful Charge, I'm trying it out right now, and it seems pretty good so far. It's actually funny, Frieza's getting beaten in this picture when it's like a Frieza-based deck. But anyways, so you negate the attack, you sacrifice one of your battle cards, which in this case, like I talked about, they're all 1-drop cantrips. You don't care about losing them. And then your opponent discards an additional card because you're, you know, doing a ton of hand control all the way around. So it is very, very good. Dormant Potential Unleashed, we're playing 3 copies because it is our equivalent of Nimbus. And the fact that you can use it for free when you have a green Unison in play, like a 0 energy investment, is so insane. This card is absolutely snapped in half. Has a similar effect, Shocking Death Ball, so we're not missing Shocking Death Ball too much. And then 4 Zarbon the Gorgeous. You could play the Android 18 super combo, the blue-green one that, you know, rips your opponent's hand further. But having a searchable super combo always feels good. So hopefully in this video, I've explained to you guys some ways you can kind of customize the deck. I'm actually a really big fan of this deck. I want in the comments below what you guys think. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time.